Slide that way, we'll give you the chair. Alright. So we gotta slide everything that way. Okay. So I can get that in my chair, Brian give me his, and then we'll have enough. Am I doing? Yeah, we're gonna slide everybody's chair down one and slide over a seat, because we're gonna need one more chair down there.
That's ridiculous. You should really
I just been so angry that people were dealing behind our back, behind everyone's back.
I talked to the So you never saw this though? Yeah. M-I-R. You know any tape these Okay, we're over time here, so I'm going to get this started. Everyone's ready, I think. Okay? I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Volney Municipal Building. If you would stand with me, I'm going to have Alderman Bob Weston lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're here this evening for the purpose of conducting a joint public hearing with the City of Fulton and the Town of Volney. It's part of a mandated procedure for an annexation petition. We're here to listen to your comments and concerns, not to answer questions or debate the issue. I will not tolerate any name-calling, any insulting language or personalities. I realize this is an emotional issue for some people, and I respect that. But I will insist on an atmosphere of mutual respect, and I will not hesitate to call someone out of order and terminate their speaking privilege if they get out of line. In order to speak, you must sign in. Please put your name, address, and your residency so we know if you're a Volney or a Fulton resident on the card. The cards will be given to me in the order that they were received, and you will be called on to speak. You will be allowed 5 minutes to speak, and at the end of that 5 minutes, you will be notified that your time is up, and you'll be given 30 seconds to close up your remarks. If you wish to speak further, after everyone has had a chance to speak, and if time allows, we will allow you more time. If you have a statement to be read into the record from somebody else, sign the card for that person and speak on their behalf. It's the only way I can think of to allow that to happen without someone taking more time than they're allowed. Also, we have a stenographer that's going to be typing, or whatever they call that, every word that's said verbatim, and we ask you to speak slowly and clearly. Also, when you approach the microphone, which I'm going to ask you to do, identify yourself and your address as well. The protocol for the evening is the municipal presenters will have the floor first. I'm going to allow the City of Fulton to begin, and the Town of Volney will have time to speak, and then I'll turn it over to the public. Whoever would like to speak for the city first, you have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Jim Dwyer. I'm an attorney, and I've been engaged as counsel to the City of Fulton in connection with this proposed annexation. My office is in East Syracuse, New York, and the firm name is Grossman, Kinney, Dwyer, Reitz, and Harrigan. We do some municipal work and environmental work as well. This evening, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time in discussing the proposal with you. I am only going to present one witness to discuss what we believe, the city believes, to be the main issue in the annexation, and that is the issue of the tax monies as they resolve around real property taxes and sales taxes. I'm going to submit a series of reports and affidavits to the joint boards here for them to make their decision upon. I'll summarize what the affidavits will contain and take it from that point. Initially, as an opening statement, by the enactment of the municipal annexation law, the state legislature's intent was to provide an annexation statute pursuant to the provisions of the Bill of Rights for local governments, which specify basic prerequisites to the annexation of territory from one local government to another, including, first, the consent of the people, if any, of a territory proposed to be annexed. In this case, the land is vacant. Secondly, the consent of the governing board of each local government, the area of which is affected, upon the basis of its determination that the annexation is in the overall public interest, and you'll hear a lot about that tonight, and which provisions require such consent of each of the governing boards, and if it is not granted, the statute provides for adjudication and determination on the law and the facts in a proceeding initiated in the Supreme Court of the issue of whether or not the annexation is in the overall public interest. In connection with this particular petition, which was filed before the end of the year, subsequently, the owners of the real property on December 29th transferred that real property to the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency as part of the funding package in connection with this particular proposal. The Industrial Development Agency has before it a resolution joining in, authorizing the joining in of into the relief requested in the petition for the annexation. That meeting will take place tomorrow. In addition, as part of the closing between the Industrial Development Agency and Wide Waters Pierce Drive Associates, which was the developer, there was a lease executed around at the time of closing, which was December 29th, and within the lease provisions there was an agreement between the IDA and Wide Waters Pierce Drive Association that they would indeed do this. I've been in touch with representatives of the Industrial Development Agency, and they have indicated that that process of joining in the petition will be consummated formally. Next, I would like to offer is, excuse me a moment, as far as the IDA resolution and agreement to join in, I'd like to reserve the opportunity to submit that as part of the record when it does indeed become available. Mr. Chairman. Next, I would like to submit as part of the record that deals with the issue of a benefit, a resolution, certified copy of a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Fulton on January 1st, 1994, wherein under certain conditions it would agree to reimburse the town of Volney for double the amount of taxes that are lost concerning the annexation should it be consummated, and that agreement would last essentially as long as the project was viable, and again I'm summarizing, and secondly, as long as the County of Oswego did not enact a county-wide sales tax. I would like to make a certified copy of that resolution as part of the record in this particular matter.
No objection.
Next, my discussion has to do with services to be provided by the City of Fulton in connection with the proposed project, which would include sewer and water. I have, rather than in lieu of testimony by the Water and Sewer Commission for the City of Fulton, Roger Parsons, I have his affidavit which says essentially that there is sufficient capacity reserved for this, and it will not impact to any considerable degree that reserved capacity for the City of Fulton. In other words, the City of Fulton can accommodate this particular project from sewer and water service perspective without endangering its reserve capacity for the future. I would like to also have that particular affidavit entered as part of the record this evening.
No objection.
Next, in behalf of the City of Fulton, Pomeroy Appraisal Associates, Inc. Incorporated of Syracuse, New York, was engaged to investigate this proposal relative to the issue of a benefit in connection with the proposed annexation, and to look into this area both as to benefit to the city if the annexation occurred, and benefit on each side, either benefit or non-benefit to the town of Volney and also to the property itself. The appraisal itself is rather extensive, and this report is extensive, and I have disseminated that across the table here. And this evening, I have Mr. Donald Fisher, who is one of the authors of this particular report, to say a few words and summarize it rather than letting me do that. Mr. Fisher.
My name's Don Fisher. I'm the president of Pomeroy Appraisal. Their business address is at 225 West Jefferson Street in Syracuse. And as Mr. Dwyer just mentioned, we had been retained to do some research and investigation on the impact of the annexation, the proposed annexation, to all the parties that were involved. I do have to make one correction. He indicated that this was an appraisal. It's not an appraisal. It's an analysis, in a sense, benefit cost analysis. There is no value that was estimated in the report. It was only an analysis of the benefits and costs to the different parties. And as you go through the report, you'll see that we broke it down into the three different parties that are involved here: the City of Fulton, the Town of Volney, and the subject property itself. We further broke each category into the cost to each party, both if annexed and if not annexed, and the benefits with the same two subcategories. The general costs that would incur to the City of Fulton if the project was annexed would be an increase in public safety services like fire, police, emergency medical, road maintenance like snow plowing and road repair, the increase in the cost of the sewer and water facilities that would be attached to the property, and also the payment that was mentioned in the resolution from the city to the town. If the project was not annexed, there would be a decrease in projected sales tax revenue to the city because of the 3% benefit that the project would receive without having a countywide or a citywide sales tax that would affect the sales of the goods and services that would be developed on this property. There would also be a potential loss in real estate tax revenue as well. As far as benefits, if the property was annexed, there would be an increase in sales tax revenue, and there would also be an increase in real estate tax revenue. If it was not annexed, there would, in essence, be no benefits to the City of Fulton. There would be avoided costs as far as emergency, public services, and road maintenance. For the town of Volney, as far as the costs go, if the property was annexed, there would be a loss of real estate taxes. There would also be a loss, there would not be any loss of potential sales tax revenue because there is no sales tax for the town. If the property was not annexed, there would be the cost for public services, fire, police, emergency medical, whatever would service that area, the road maintenance, problems with sewer and water services since the town does not offer that, and of course the loss of the proposed city payment through the resolution. Benefits to the town, if the property was annexed, would include the receipt of the city payment, and there would be no cost for fire, police, road maintenance, and like that. I might add that if this, we project an estimate of $15,000 of real estate taxes if the property remained in the town of Volney. That would be the town's share of the real estate taxes, which by the city's resolution would indicate a payment by the city to the town of up to $30,000. If the property is annexed, one of the benefits that the town would receive would be that $30,000, and that $30,000 would, in essence, be clear profit to the town. Could be used to offset the other town expenses. There would be no services that would have to be deducted from that. Unfortunately, if the property is not annexed, one of the problems that results to the town is, okay, they would get the $15,000 that we estimate in real estate taxes, but most of that would be eaten up by the services that would have to be provided to the area, the property that we're discussing. So in one sense, you would get $30,000 of almost clear profit. In the other sense, you would have the $15,000, most of which would have to be spent on the services. As far as the subject site goes, for costs, if the property is annexed, there would be higher real estate taxes that would be paid to the city than to the town. If it's not annexed, there would be the problem with not having sufficient public utilities of water and sewer. For benefits to the subject site, if it is annexed, there would be immediate access to sufficient water and sewer. There would be quicker response time for fire, police, emergency medical services. And we also estimate that there would be lower insurance costs for this property because of the quicker response to the emergency medical services and the availability of public water and sewer. So our final analysis was that economically, annexation was in essence a win-win-win type of situation where all the parties would benefit. If there's any questions?
Thank you. This evening's hearing also has to do with the necessity for each of the respective boards to make determinations under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. As part of the record, I want to make sure that the final environmental assessment form submitted by the applicants and dated December 9th, 1993 is included therein. And make
No
that
objection.
as an exhibit. I would like to reserve the right to submit, depending upon the submissions by the town and the general public, any of the secret documentation that was developed concerning a proposal regarding the same property within the town of Volney and its planning board. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the city, I would move that we proceed with a hearing without the necessity, if it hasn't been done so, of the reading of the public notice, and note that publication took place for each of the respective boards as required by the statute.
No objection.
As far as the city is concerned, I believe we've presented a case based upon the testimony of Mr. Fisher and the documents that have been submitted and which will be submitted in connection with the actions of the IDA of what is known as a prima facie case, which displays that and discloses that we have here a situation in which there is indeed a benefit of an annexation which is directed toward the city, principally involving the question of taxes and the loss of those revenues in the event there is not annexation. At this particular point, the city does not have anything further to offer. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Carr. I'm the town attorney for the town of Volney. Mr. Dwyer has, I think, nicely presented the overall statutory framework and the purpose for which we are basically here. This is a joint hearing to get input and is not in any stretch of the imagination to be considered an adversarial proceeding, but rather one where information is presented to the boards so that they may get about the assigned task of exercising their sovereign discretion as to whether or not this petition that has been placed before them for annexation is in the overall public interest. In that regard, I personally don't have anything by way of an opening statement other than to state that the town of Volney, for purposes of this evening, will be presenting various statements and some documentation for inclusion in the record for this proceeding and at this time. And with that, I'll just merely turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. The first presenter for the evening for the town of Volney will be Doug Wickman from CNS Engineers. Doug?
All right, this mic over here by this map.
Sure.
I'd like to refer to it. C and S. My name is Doug Wickman. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New York. I work for C&S Engineers in Syracuse. Our firm was retained by the town of Volney to review available information on the capabilities and functioning of the Fulton and water and sewer facilities. We were also asked by the town of Volney to consider what it would take to provide, for the town of Volney, to provide sewer and water to this site. First, I'd like to review the city of Fulton sewer system that would serve this project. There is an existing, and we don't know how to orient this so that everybody can see it. There's an existing sanitary sewer manhole at the intersection of Pierce Drive and Route 57. Sewage from that location flows to the north, generally along the banks of the Oswego River. It is then pumped across the Oswego River and then flows further north to the wastewater treatment plant that the city operates and maintains in the town of Granby. One of the pieces of information that we've reviewed consists of a letter that was sent to the town of Fulton by the DEC. This letter was submitted to the city of Fulton on March 10th, 1992. It was addressed to Mayor George Villette, and this letter describes problems with a number of different overflows. It numbers them as 6 overflow points from the city of Fulton sewer system directly to the Oswego River. It also talks about problems with infiltration and inflow into the city of Fulton sewer system. Infiltration and inflow are relatively clean water that gets into the sewer system either through problems with the sewers themselves or sump pumps that are connected to the sewers or roof drains that are connected to the sewers. And what happens is then that water causes the sewers to back up, to overflow, and that causes the overflows and it causes excessive flows at the treatment plant. This letter also talks about the 2 components at the treatment plant being at or near capacity. And it concludes with a statement, says the department, referring to the Department of Environmental Conservation, does not object to sewering areas that are identified by the Oswego County Health Department as health concerns. However, before both towns can be completely sewered, all of the above issues must be addressed. To the best of my knowledge, all of the above issues have not been addressed. The infiltration and the inflow, I understand, is in the process of being addressed, but the other items that are discussed in this letter, as far as I understand, have not been addressed. And since this project does not yet exist, there are, of course, no health problems in this location as they're referenced in this letter. We also reviewed a report that was prepared by Barton and Lejudas, which is another engineering firm in Syracuse. They were retained by Oswego County to inventory and describe and discuss all of the sewage systems and all of the water systems in Oswego County. And I have with me a copy of the report as it pertains to the city of Fulton's wastewater treatment facility and sewage and sewers. And this report also refers to infiltration and inflow problems. It also refers to the overflows to the Oswego River as problems that are experienced in the city of Fulton. This report was completed in April of 1993. Now I'd like to review the water system that the city of Fulton operates. Basically, water is is provided by the City of Fulton by a series of wells to the southeast of the City of Fulton. I believe there are 10 of them. It also has a connection to a water source from the Metropolitan Water Board through facilities of the Onondaga County Water Authority. A 16-inch line that goes along the south side of Route 481 to all the water facilities, the same facilities that are bringing water to the City of Fulton from the wells that I mentioned previously. Water is pumped from these locations to storage tanks through the distribution system. I understand that there's a 1 million-gallon storage tank on the east side of the Oswego River and two 500,000-gallon tanks on the west side of the Oswego River. The same report that I mentioned that was prepared by Barton and LaJudas describing the sewer system also talks about the water system that's operated by the City of Fulton. And I'll just read a short concluding statement. It describes, this report describes all the details, the extent of the system, the rates, the operation of the wells, the interconnection with the Onondaga County Water Authority line, and it concludes with a paragraph N labeled available capacity. And again, this report was completed in April of 1993. And it says, there is no available capacity in this water system due to the source and storage limitations mentioned above. Now the source limitations I think are somewhat complex to describe, but the storage limitations are more easy to talk about. It's a general rule that you should have storage volumes totaling about the same amount as you supply in one day, plus available storage for fighting fires. I understand that the City of Fulton supplies approximately 2.8 million gallons of water per day to the various services in and around the City of Fulton at this time. Since there are only 2 million gallons of storage available, the storage by that general guideline is 800,000 gallons short of what is generally recommended. And I believe that is the basis upon which they're making this statement, that there really is no available capacity at this time from the City of Fulton. Now, the town of Volney also asked me to consider how water and sewer could be provided by the town of Volney, and we have done that. There is an existing 24-inch line on the east side of the Conrail tracks. It would be possible, we've discussed this with the Water Authority, Onondaga County Water Authority, it would be possible to make another connection to that line, to meter the water at that location, to construct a pump station, to build a water line along the north side of Route 481 and supply the proposed project from that source. The pumps would be necessary to provide pressure. The metering would be necessary to obviously keep track of how much water is being used. A district would need to be created by the town of Fulton. This project would cost approximately $370,000 to construct, in our opinion. We've also estimated the cost for providing sewage treatment. It could be provided using a packaged treatment plant. It could be located roughly at the entrance to the proposed project. The plant itself would be largely underground. It would not present an aesthetic problem. And it would be sized to accommodate the flows that are presently estimated to be generated by the facility, by the shopping center. The water would be treated at that location, the wastewater would be treated at that location, and then be directed to the Oswego River. We've talked with the DEC about what the treatment requirements would be at that location, and the package plant that is proposed would meet those requirements. We estimate that the capital cost of providing the sewage treatment package plant plus the outfall would be $130,000. So it would be, in order to provide, for the town of Volney to provide water and sewer to this project, it would involve a capital expense of about $500,000. We've also considered the operation and maintenance requirements to operate these systems. And we estimate that it would cost about $6,000 annually to operate the water system and about $9,000 annually to operate the sewer system, for a total of $15,000. We've considered how this would be paid for. It would be paid for back by the district. Typically, retail stores deal with these types of things on a square footage basis. This proposed facility, as far as I understand, includes a series of stores which will occupy a gross usable area of 174,000 square feet, roughly. 174,000 square feet. The town would form districts to operate these facilities, to pay off the capital expenses for constructing the facilities, and the amortization costs for the principal and the interest, plus the operation and maintenance, would result in a charge of approximately 37 cents per square foot for the shopping center to pay off the district expenses. In summary, then, we believe there are questions that are raised in this available information about the ability of the city of Fulton to provide water and sewer facilities to this shopping center. And the town of Volney stands ready to provide new facilities to this shopping center for 37 cents a square foot. The documents that I referred to tonight, namely the reports, the sections of the report from the Barton and LaJudas report dealing with the water system for the city of Fulton and the sewer system for the city of Fulton, as well as the letter that I referred to from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Those documents I'd like to have become a part of the record of this hearing.
No objection. Thank you. Okay. Councilwoman Claudia Smart would like to speak next.
Upon consultation with our assessors, we have come up with the following information concerning the assessment of the mall property. Until the facility is actually completed, no one can accurately state what the assessment will be. However, based upon the available information, we have been able to come up with some estimates. Originally, the facility was assumed to have a capital investment of $10 million and require 4,000 gallons per day of water and sewer. Now they require 11,000 gallons per day of water and sewer and desire unlimited availability. Using the services required as a guide, since no other harder information is available, it would change this investment to become $27,500,000. This would be a reasonable assumption, since they had to pay the state $1 million just to break access on Route 481. It would be silly to pay that type of fee and put in a small center of low cost. Document to back up that assumption, letter to Mayor George Villette from the Wide Waters Group dated October 21st, 1993. Dear Mayor Villette, in discussions over the last several months, we have indicated to you that we would like to have an unlimited amount of sewer and water services provided to the shopping center. In order to assure its full development at the present time would include not only the Kmart, grocery store, and drive-in restaurant that you have provided services for, but other smaller stores in the center, which include another restaurant. At the present time, we have strong interest from national and/or regional retailers who would like to locate in the Fulton area, who we would like to accommodate, and who would offer shopping unique to the Fulton area. In addition, as future undeveloped areas of the site become available for development, we need the ability to continue building so as to develop a competitive center. At this time, we would request that you and John Lincoln Jr., Ross Belfiore, and J. David Halstead, having the foresight to have supported our project in the past, consider granting additional services so the center may be fully developed for the benefit of the residents of the city of Fulton as well as the surrounding communities. Please let me know if there is additional information that we can provide, or if you would like our Vice President of Retail Leasing, Lou Aiello, and I to make any type of formal request or presentation to the Common Council. Best regards, Joseph Girardi, Vice President and General Counsel, the Wide Waters Group. Based upon the IDA agreement that gives the mall a 50% reduction for the first 5 years, that would give the mall a taxable full value of $13,600,000 $750,000. Using our current equalization rate of 8.44, it means that the county would put a value of $1,160,500 of local assessment for Volney tax purposes. Using Fulton's equalization rate of 6.52, they would put a value of $896,500 for Fulton's assessment purposes. That using Volney's local tax rate for town, highway, and fire of $42.79067 per thousand, and Fulton's rate of $212.12860 per thousand translates to a tax bill of $49,658.57 in Volney, or $190,173.29 in Fulton, which is an extra cost to the developer of $140,514.72 per year for the first 5 years. Based upon the current tax rates and the 50% tax assessment reduction for those years, the disparity would be larger as the tax reduction drops to 35% in years 6 through 10 and 20% in years 11 through 15. If the mall stays in Volney, the city is able to charge a surcharge on the water and sewer, which is based upon the figures given to Volney on the mall using the 4,000 gallon per day, would translate to the city receiving approximately $34,748 per year, depending upon usage, which would certainly cover minor road repair. Of course, now the Widewaters also has drilling rights, and it could possibly consider drilling their own wells. The city has repeatedly stated that the only reason for annexation is a sales tax and a level playing field. Niagara Mohawk pays approximately 64% of the taxes in Oswego County. They are currently in the process of getting that assessment lowered. Let me read you a letter received by our assessors on January 10th, 1994. This is to Mr. Fay Sanford, Chairman, Volney Assessors. Mr. Fay Sanford, Chairman, Volney Board of Assessors. Dear Mr. Sanford, in New York State, Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation provides electricity, gas, or both to more than 700 municipalities and its 24,000 square mile service territory. In many communities, we are the largest taxpayer on the property tax assessment roll. Today, roughly 17 cents of every Niagara Mohawk customer dollar is attributable to a tax levied by our state and local governments. Nearly 7 cents reflects the share of property taxes, which is the single largest tax paid by the company. In 1993, Niagara Mohawk paid $243 million in real property taxes in New York State. A recent U.S. study of 113 gas and electric public utilities indicates an average of 3.11 cents of every customer dollar is attributable to property taxes. In New York State, excluding New York City, the average is 7 cents of every customer dollar, more than twice the average rate paid in other states. Niagara Mohawk has and continues to be faced with adopting stringent cost controls and streamlining its operations to achieve substantial cost reductions. In light of this and other critical issues, I have enclosed a copy of Niagara Mohawk's most recent capital report that is now being distributed to many of the state's legislative representatives. I want to share a copy with you and other New York State assessors and tax directors in our service territory. I believe the paper accurately reflects the problems Niagara Mohawk and other gas and electric public utilities are facing to maintain a competitive position in New York State. Please feel free to let me know your comments. I am very interested to know what you think about this and other critical issues facing all of us as we strive to adjust to the changes we are now facing. Yours truly, Louis Gammon, G-A-M-M-O-N, from Niagara Mohawk. When Niagara Mohawk is successful in their bid to have their assessment lowered, it would have a disastrous impact on all other businesses and residents of Oswego County. This should happen sometime over the next few years. At that time, the unpopular subject of a countywide sales tax would become much more popular when the choice is a sky-high county tax bill. Then the city sales tax reason for annexation is gone. As far as the level playing fields go, That goes against the fundamentals of competition and capitalism that this country is based on. Level playing fields is what communism is, and it can only survive as long as the inefficient system is able to continually expand and exploit the resources of their neighbors. As soon as the expansion stops, the system collapses because it was never built on a firm base. The mall might better stay in Volney to take advantage of the temporary sales tax situation. This could be a strong merchandising tool to bring people to shop in this area. And then while they are already here, they would also end up shopping at the stores in Fulton since they are already here. When this whole annexation question came up at the end of 1992, we went to the county for advice on the sewer issue, since we were always very ready, willing, and able to provide a package system for the mall. We were sure that the county would help us since we had the detrimental impact of 2 county landfills and an incinerator and an airport, and we have never received any host community benefits. We were told not to worry about looking into sewer ourselves since we had never done it and did not have a town engineer. We were told Mike Treadwell's office would come up with a solution for Volney to be able to provide the service. So we waited and were sure the county would step in when they were needed. 3 months later, when negotiations with Fulton broke down, we said, okay, what's the solution? We were told they had received legal advice that they couldn't help us. But during the same period, they had given the city $600,000 to redo the sewers for Nestle. If Volney had been given our host community benefits, we could have had water and sewer through the town for free that we would own ourselves. Even without this host community benefit, why is one community helped while the one next door isn't, for major impact on a tax base and jobs? We were told the county was neutral on this. However, when I told our lawyer that the county said that it was not legal to help us, he thought it was very funny. All along, Widewaters kept telling the city and the town that they needed the commitment for water and sewer for their bankers. We need to add stores for the terms of their loans, so they need more water and sewer. They need to have drilling rights because of their banker. Now we find that the bankers are the IDA of Oswego County since 1992. The same neutral fellows that couldn't help Volney. This whole thing could stop now if the county wanted it to, since they are the real owners through IDA. They are exceeding their legislative mandate. There needs to be a full investigation of the IDA and Operation Oswego County, since they are destroying the community of Volney, Granby, and Fulton and instilling distrust of every one of their neighbor. And now these same people want an EDZ, and they and the CDA would administer it. But we shouldn't be concerned about our interest because they are involved and they are neutral.
Just like that entered into the record.
Yes.
No objection. Does anyone else want to speak? Okay. One thing I failed to do at the beginning of the meeting was to put into the record those present from Fulton and Volney. I think I'll do that now for the stenographer. From the city of Fulton, we have Mayor Bullard, Council President Bob Weston, Alderman Tim Allen, Alderman Kathy Trowbridge, Alderman John Lincoln, and Alderman Joe Cavallero. Alderman Jim Termigi. And also present is Attorney Jim Dwyer from Fulton, or representing Fulton, and City Attorney Jerome Marbito. From the town of Volney, Supervisor Rose, Councilwoman Claudia Smart, Councilman Jim Ridgway, Councilman Jesse Warner, and Councilman Bill Pierce, and our attorney Ron Carr. Before I go to the public presenters, I'm going to repeat the ground rules for those that just came in and came in late. First of all, you must sign in to speak, fill out the 3x5 card. And on that card, name, address, and your residency, Fulton or Volney. I'm going to call you in the order that the cards came in. You will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. At the end of 5 minutes, you will have 30 seconds to wrap up. If we have people who want to speak longer at the end of the meeting, which we've decided will end at 11 o'clock, if you don't get a chance to speak by 11 o'clock, you can submit your comments in writing within 5 days, which would be Tuesday, January 25th. I'll also announce that if someone has already said what you intend to say, it'll be entered into the record, and there's no reason to repeat it. But if you wish to speak, I won't stop you. But just so you'll know that anything that has been said doesn't need to be said again. With that, I'll open the floor for, I'm sorry, Barb, do you have the cards? Thank you. Okay, the first card I had is Alan Kestner, a resident of Volney, and will you also state your name and address at the microphone for the stenographer?
Thank you, Howard. My name's Alan Kestner. I live in Volney. I guess I'm talking first because I got here first. Howard, what were the ground rules about? You said if it's been said already, we can't say it again?
No, I didn't say that. I just wanted to make everyone aware that if it's been said, it's already been entered into the record, and there's no need to repeat it. I'm not going to stop you from saying it again, but I'm just making you aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Because Claudia covered things fairly well, and I think that, but I'm going to talk about some things. I was sitting around, you know, trying to get a little organized today and making some notes on what to say this evening. Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I should say that. Mayor, thank you for coming. I was just jotting down some things here, and I was going to talk about the overall public interest because that's what this is all about. I read in the paper that Mayor Bullard says that property taxes would rise $100 to $150 per $1,000 assessed value if the mall stayed in Volney, and that boggles the mind. I don't know what they're going to rise because Jamesway's leaving, maybe $100 to $150. I don't know. I would like to remind the mayor and the other people here in Fulton and Granby and Volney that the population of Fulton is about equal to that of Volney and Granby, and that every time that people from Granby and Volney go into town to buy something, we are in effect subsidizing the government of the city of Fulton. We are essentially subsidizing the property taxes in the town of Fulton. And I don't know if you realize that, but we do. I'm not sure what benefits we get back from that, but that's neither here nor there. Part of the decision is going to be on what benefit accrues to each entity here, and we've been through all that. I only heard the word unfortunately once in Mr. Fisher's report, and it was when he was talking about Volney's problems if we don't allow the annexation. I thought that was unfortunate that he would say that once in reference. Now, he come up with a win-win-win situation. How can reasonable people be against a win-win-win situation? But he didn't tell us who paid for the analysis. I was going to talk about the protectionism of Fulton businesses, and that's what this amounts to. If the only reason that they don't want the mall in Volney is to protect their sales tax, then they're really protecting their Fulton businesses. And, well, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's un-American, but you know, now we're trading with Canada and Mexico, and maybe Fulton should consider something along those lines. I was going to mention that this is an ad hoc judgment, if I may quote Mr. Carr, an ad hoc judgment predicated on sales tax losses in Fulton, and that I'm not sure that anybody can prove that. The only way to find out is to see what happens. I'm not going to ask what development planning Fulton had for this land before the mall was developed. Maybe they had their eye on it then, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if KBC and Jamesway are... KBC. KBC is a small business in Fulton that is now defunct. I don't know if KBC and Jamesway are now liabilities to the city of Fulton or not. I don't know. I don't know what benefits Fulton would accrue if the mall is annexed and the county sales tax is approved. I don't know. Nobody does. I don't think that this has anything to do with growth. I don't think it has anything to do with the business in Fulton. It has to do with sales taxes. Fulton should petition Oswego County to add a county sales tax. Governor Cuomo is going to shove it down the throat of the county officials because there will come a day within the next 5 years when Medicaid will be handled at the state level. It will be funded by 1% of the county sales tax, and either Oswego County initiates a sales tax in order to pay for that, or they're going to be stuck with paying the Medicaid at the same rate they are now. So it's coming. It's just a question of time. This annexation is going to disrupt Volney's industrial corridor. I don't know if anybody brought that up. I'm not sure what that map, it doesn't show it. Volney at least had plans for the land. City of Fulton didn't until something happened. I don't understand this. First there's not enough water, and then there's enough water, and I don't understand that. I don't understand it. They can't have the water until they annex it, and now you're up here telling us that there is enough water, but you didn't say whether there's still enough water if it isn't annexed. So I was going to talk about all those things, and then I found out, and I wasn't going to get mad either. Then I found out this afternoon, and Mr. Dwyer, Mr. Dwyer was kind enough to drop this bombshell. I think it is a bombshell. I think that the implications of the county getting into this is ruinous for everybody. We are doomed. We are doomed. We're going to lose the land because the county's in it. We're going to lose it. The county is too powerful. There's too much cronyism. I'm not going to use the word corrupt. I think there's some conflict of interest going on here, but now that the county's in it, we are doomed. We can kiss the land goodbye, but I'll tell you one thing. They can't make us like it. They can't make us like it. The county can do whatever we want. These people up here have nothing to do with this. They have nothing to do with this, I don't believe. It's all at the county level. We are doomed. Kiss the land goodbye.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, next I have Colleen Scott, Volney resident.
Hi, my name's Colleen Scott. I live in the town of Volney on the Flood Road. My comment is in the form of a story. Once upon a time, there was a city that really had a future, and the people in the city made the people in the country feel like they were part of that future too. So the people in the country did everything they could to help that city secure that future. They let them put railroad lines in the country so they wouldn't wake the sick people in the hospitals. They helped them get enough clean, pure water to drink by letting them run a water line through their land. The country people were made to feel like they were being good neighbors, and when they needed something, the country people were made to feel like they were being good neighbors, and when they needed something, the city would be there to help them too. One day, two land barons got together and decided to build the greatest marketplace the city and the country people had ever seen in their land. The only property big enough to hold the new marketplace was in the land of the country people. The country people were very happy that the land barons had chosen their property to build the great marketplace, and they did everything they could to help. But alas, the marketplace needed water and a way to dispose of their waste. The land barons needed some stone cutters to build the marketplace, so the people from beyond, by the wide waters, were chosen, because they had built very many marketplaces before. The land barons and the stone cutters from beyond the wide waters went to the rulers of the city people to ask for their help in getting the services the country people couldn't provide. The aggressive rulers of the city were eager to expand their kingdom, so they told the land barons and the stone cutters from beyond, by the wide waters, to get the water and a place to dispose of their waste, they must give them the land with great haste. The land barons went back to the country people and said, "We're sorry, but your land, it must go." So the country people wanted help, and they went to the king and his dukes in the palace by the sea, and the country people said, "Oh, please help me." The country people were sure the king would help them because they had always been such loyal subjects. The country people had let the king place many dumps and a trash burning site on the country land. The country people had even let the king use part of their land for his flying machines. The king had promised the country people if they let him put his flying machines on their land, he would give them a park to bring their families to. It has been many, many years, and the king told the country people it wasn't a good time to build the park yet. So the country people were sure, since they had been so patient, the king and their duke would surely help them. But the king said, "No, no, no. We can't help you. My counselor, the land baron, says it breaks our rules." The city rulers told the land barons and the stonecutters from beyond by the wide waters, "You give us the land or you get no water." So the stonecutters from beyond by the wide waters said, "You either have a tournament and beat the city, or we will help the city take your land." So the city and the country people had a gathering, and the aggressive rulers from the city said, "We will make all the rules. The gathering shall be in the city land, and only your rulers may speak." The evil city ruler said the country people had to be quiet or they must go. He tried to scare the country people by saying if they had the tournament, they would get nothing and should take home some peanuts he had instead. The country people said, "No, we don't want your peanuts, we want our land." Now the country people have found that the stonecutters and the land barons don't own the land, they're just leasing. The King's Imperial Development Army holds the deed. The king in the palace by the sea is really just saying, "Country people, give your land to me." So the day of the tournament draws near, and the country people are sad, because no matter who wins, they now know the king in the palace by the sea and his city rulers never really wanted them to be part of their future. Thank you.
Next, I have Charles Smart, a Volney resident.
One point that I didn't notice being brought up before that I believe, I'm sorry, it's Charles Smart. S-M-A-R-T. I believe also this annexation proposal does landlock a small portion of the town of Volney. Makes it completely surrounded by the city of Fulton. I thought we were going to have maps of that, but I don't see that's been presented, so I'd like to bring that up. I'd also like to point out that I think advantage was taken of the town of Volney. Our relatively cooperative zoning and planning boards helped to facilitate the planning and the approval of the mall. And then, as in the city of Fulton, I can recall 15 or 16 years ago when the Sambos wanted to come in about where the Valley News is now. They were not allowed to come in, and Arby's tried unsuccessfully to come in, and I know that a Taco Bell took 3 or 4 years to get approval. In fact, the manager of the Quality Inn at one time told me that it took 3 years to get approval for that facility. We did the approval in a very short span. I think it was about a half a year or less. As our engineers stated, the cost of the sewer and water would not have to be borne by the entire town, as is in the case of the city. The city has a citywide sewer and water district. Only the users of a district are required to pay for the district, and of course that would be the mall and the other merchants that come in and wish to use it. I would like to read into the record a letter that I wrote to the Attorney General. This is dated January 5th, 1994. Dear Sir, I'm writing concerning possible misuse of state grant money. The Greater Fulton Neighborhood-Based Initiative was founded using a 5-year grant, $366,000 for 1992 alone. It is supposed to represent the broad Fulton-Granby-Volney area, presenting a vision for the area's future, and then coordinating all available city, town, county, and state resources to achieve it. A Neighborhood Advisory Council, the NAC, was set up to represent the broad area and establish that vision. In reality, the Volney-Granby representation was nearly non-existent. People, industries, and agencies included were City of Fulton-based or Oswego County departments and organizations. The mayor of Fulton was also on the original committee, but no Granby or Volney representatives. The Community Leadership Committee, chaired by Oswego County Attorney Bruce Clark, includes 2 former Fulton mayors. This committee lists as obstacles provincialism, limited vision, and existing political educational entities. I presume they are referring to elected officials. Volney and Granby were not represented. The Economic Development Committee was chaired by Steve Rose, Commissioner of Oswego County Department of Social Services. Mike Treadwell, Executive Director of Operation Oswego County and head of the Oswego County Industrial Development Agency, is a member of this committee, as well as the heads of Oswego County Department of Employment and Training, Assistant Superintendent BOCES, Oswego ARC Oswego Industries, Fulton Community Development Agency, and the Greater Fulton Chamber of Commerce. This committee finds the great obstacles to economic development of the area are the cost of doing business in New York State and the lack of abundant land for new development. City is landlocked. Why is this an obstacle to economic development in the area? It seems the main thrust of this project is to increase the city's tax base at the expense of its neighbors, Volney and Granby, with the county's help and blessing. At the same time, it is an attempt to create an overseeing organization beyond the reach of the elected area officials and thereby unaccountable to the voting public. Two members of the NAC, developer Larry Rowley and County Attorney Bruce Clark, are owners of Volney land on which a mall containing Kmart and PNC are being built. Under pressure of the Fulton Council, they have petitioned to annex this property into the city of Fulton. This site has been zoned and targeted since 1969 by the town for industrial and commercial expansion. Please note that the MBI action plan indicates sewer and water infrastructure in the city is inadequate. A March 1992 DEC report on the Fulton wastewater treatment and collection system notes infiltration and overflow problems. Water studies done by Barton and LaJudas for the area in connection with a proposed county-wide water district showed no additional capacity available in the city water system. The stated NBI vision of creating a Volney sense of community and purpose is a worthy goal. Some involved in the NBI are undoubtedly trying to achieve these ends. However, the grant money and study are being used to justify the expansion of the city of Fulton and has already resulted in a divisive annexation battle between the city of Fulton and the town of Volney. Rather than bringing people together, this is creating deep rifts within the community and great distrust by Volney residents of the city and county governments. No matter what the outcome of this battle, resentment and long-lasting scars will be the result. I have
Thank you, Charlie.
I wish to give these things to the record.
No objection.
I have the strategic action plan as originally documented.
Charlie.
My reply
Okay, Charlie. Thank
to
you.
the letter.
If time allows, you can have 5 minutes again later.
I think I'll wait and use the 5 minutes again later to finish, and then
Okay.
I'll turn these over.
Okay. Kevin Conley, resident of Volney.
Good evening. I'd like to... C-O-N-N-E-L-L-Y. I want to thank both boards for the opportunity. I was just going to make introductions. I got to get it on the record. Thanks. I would like to thank both boards for the opportunity to speak tonight. As Chairman Howard Rose said, I'm a resident of the town of Volney. I also had an opportunity to live in the city of Fulton. My first home was in the city of Fulton, and I enjoyed it very much. I'm chairman of the planning board for the town of Volney, and I would like to take a couple minutes to express my opposition to the request for annexation. I feel that this request is unnecessary and not in the public interest. The city of Fulton has provided a substantial number of town of Volney residents water and sewer services for a large number of years. The rates paid by Volney residents is substantially higher than that paid by their city of Fulton neighbors. This surcharge or premium paid by Volney residents helps the city of Fulton offset the cost of infrastructure, I would presume, maintenance and improvements to their systems. It is understood by the comments made by Mr. Dwyer earlier that sufficient water and sewer is available to handle the proposed mall that would be located in the town of Volney. The developers, to the best of my knowledge, and I was involved in their coming into the township from the start, have always been willing to pay the prevailing rate for water and sewer, which would have exceeded the cost of delivering the service. The petition for annexation, in my opinion, is unnecessary and in no way related to the ability of the city to deliver water or sewer to the mall. In fact, in my opinion, the withholding of a public necessity, such as water, sewer, electricity, whose infrastructure, in essence, is built and subsidized through public funds, to deny that to someone for reasons other than those that are directly related to the cost and the ability to deliver that service should not be permitted. To me, that would be the equivalent of Niagara Mohawk refusing to provide electricity to a resident in its territory simply because they do their shopping at stores serviced by RG&E. We certainly wouldn't permit that. How can we permit the delivery of a service that is essential for the public for reasons other than what's directly related to that service? Also, in my opinion, this attempted action is not in the public interest and brings into jeopardy the development goals that this whole town has been operating under since the adoption of its zoning ordinance. Up until this time, a working relationship has been maintained between the city and the town. We've seen it for years. Sometimes it's been a little rough, but it's always been there. Most of the water that the city has obtained is from wells that have been located in the town of Volney. Their pipes run through the town of Volney. Their tap into the metropolitan water line is in the town of Volney. And there's been cooperation up to this point. Schools, transportation, fire protection, police protection are all done in a cooperative manner. That, in my opinion, brings into question the analysis that was made by the gentleman earlier tonight. Since fire and police protection, I don't think would be considered a cost that would be brought to the city by bringing this plaza into existence. Since it already exists, we already have fire and police protection, and whenever there's been a problem in the city, I think the town of Volney's volunteer fire department has always been there to help. The planning board has worked closely with the Wide Waters Group from the start. I've been involved from the very beginning. Before any major decisions were made, the city of Fulton was notified. At no time did city officials ask to participate in the planning process. We have worked very hard to develop an artistically and aesthetically pleasing retail hub. One that is designed so that it will provide important services at a convenient location to both town and city residents. It's also designed to easily handle future expansion. The board felt that retail development is preferable in this highly visible area to an industrial development, which was originally what that area was zoned for, and would benefit all residents. To quote from our development plan, new and urban and suburban development should be directed to those areas where it can be most economically and logically serviced by municipal facilities and utilities. That is the right place to have that plaza. You as a city have the service. It should be provided at a reasonable cost. It should be provided in such a way as to even derive possibly some profit for the city of Fulton. But I don't think it should be used as a club.
5 minutes.
As a municipal official, can I be just allowed an extra minute or so to complete?
No, I can't do that, Kevin.
Just again to quote our development plan, the city of Fulton is the urban nucleus for the town and provides some utilities and community facilities. Urban and suburban development should theoretically grow outward from the city in an orderly fashion, permitting the most economical and logical extension and expansion of existing...
Thank you, Kevin. You can have another 5 minutes at the end if you wish. Would you like me to hold your card for that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Our next speaker is Martha Foley, a Volney resident.
I've only been a resident of this area for 5 years, so maybe I can give you a different slant of how I see things rather than somebody that's native to this area. And I wrote it down so I remember it. So. As a Volney resident property owner, I'm opposed to this land being annexed because it affects my tax base. This area,
Sorry, because it affects your what?
my tax base. This area is prime industrial development land, and if it is annexed now, What is to stop the city from taking the next section that is developed and the next, and so on and so on? The primary argument the city of Fulton uses for annexation is the sales tax issue. The retail merchants in Fulton say the Volney retailers in the new center would have an unfair advantage over them because there is no county sales tax and shoppers would have to pay only a 4% sales tax. As a town resident, I see that as a benefit. And I'm sure that 4% sales tax was one of the selling points used by the developers to attract the retailers to locate in the center. There are 22 towns in the county of Oswego. They all have a 4% sales tax. So do they all have an unfair advantage over Fulton? There are 2 cities that have a 7% sales tax. As I see it, the county residents in this immediate area have been dealing with what Fulton would call an unlevel playing field for quite a while. Since most of the large retailers are within the city limits of Fulton and Oswego, we have been forced to pay the city sales tax on our purchases. The cities receive all the benefit of this extra tax. The town residents have been subsidizing the city's coffers for years. Why isn't that seen as unfair? Apparently, there was one opportunity before this to have retail development outside the city limits when the Pyramid Mall was developed in Granby. As you well know, the Pyramid Mall today is within the city limits. They wanted water and sewer services from Fulton, too. Annexation seems to be the vehicle used by the city to eliminate competition with Fulton retailers. People would shop locally if the stores were available to them. Fulton does not have a sales tax problem. It has a merchandising problem. Annexation to eliminate the competition isn't going to fix that. I'm opposed to this annexation because it would eliminate part of the town's tax base, which can impact on my property taxes. It would eliminate competition among retailers, which hurts the consumers and the community as a whole, and would eliminate my opportunity to shop at a retail store which charges the 4% sales tax that applies to me as a town resident, again forcing me to pay more taxes. The annexation issue is truly to be decided on the basis of what is in the best interest of the community as a whole, and there should be no annexation. Everything that happens in this area is not going to be a direct benefit to the city of Fulton. The towns have to be able to develop and grow without fear of the city taking over and eliminating the town's tax base. If the new development is adjacent to the city's land, it hurts the residents in the town where they can least afford it in their pocketbooks. If this shopping center were being developed on land in Volney that was not adjacent to Fulton, annexation would not be an issue. The city businesses would be forced to compete with us. I say no to annexation, leave our tax base alone. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Lauren Knapp, a Volney resident.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Knapp, K-N-A-P-P. Lauren, L-O-R-E-N. Fulton and Volney are in a collision course with hard feelings. To Volney, Fulton is stealing. Yes, word is stealing land from them. Even though some may consider it to be just a meager tax loss. To Fulton, Volney would only be giving up a small parcel of land to which they could not collect sales tax from anyhow. The real issue here is not all land. The real issue is sales tax. Yes, that tax we've all become so accustomed to that we hardly ever think of it as a tax when we are paying it. It's such a little amount, we never miss it when we buy that birthday present for someone, or when we go to a restaurant to eat, or when we buy gasoline, or when we repair our car, or when we buy, or when we buy, or when we buy, and on and on and on. The general public has become so accustomed to it, and the politicians know this. How grand it would be to their constituents for the politician to declare that they have found the answer to their money woes. Yes, and it won't cost you a dime. And we have leveled the playing field for our Fulton businesses. Don't be fooled, people of Fulton. This will not solve all your money problems. It looks good, but it won't. If Fulton wants a level playing field, then it's time to rescind the 3% sales tax and draw businesses to Fulton. Throughout history, if a government body has money, they will spend it. Why would anyone think that Fulton would be any different? Already, since the inception of the city sales tax, the city has lived beyond their means. It can't be fixed by grabbing more land and sales tax. The fares must be looked at, and it must be decided what the community can afford. Don't riddle me with the argument that everyone has to help by using the sales tax scheme. After all, tax is a tax, is a tax, is a tax. What people don't realize, and the politicians don't want you to realize, is that sales tax revenue gets them lots of money, and the payers, namely the citizens, pay most of this from their own pocket. Fulton has a fine police department. I am the president of a security company and deal with them often. I can honestly say the police department in Fulton is outstanding. I'm also a volunteer fireman in Volney, and I've had dealings with the Fulton Fire Department over the years. Yes, they are another outstanding branch of Fulton. These agencies cost money to run and must be raised in taxes, either property or sales tax. What people may not realize or understand is that because of the fine police and paid fire departments, the insurance companies look at a lower risk, and the people in the city save on their insurance premium. Volney residents don't have this luxury. So where do you pay? The insurance company or government tax? And what do you save in the insurance? You pay in tax, and vice versa. Let's look at the outgo of business in Fulton. The biggie that comes to mind is KBC, an independent department store. Do you suppose that if there was no city sales tax, maybe they could have drawn that extra business and survived the slow period that caused them to go out of business, and now not have the money to pay their land taxes? How about the liquor stores? I'm not advocating alcohol consumption, but look, after the store set up shop just outside the city limits with no city's tax, all but one has folded in the city. The point I'm making is that the sales tax from the mall slated to be built in Volney is not a fix for Fulton. Hard feelings will be the order of the day. Other ways Fulton could save money can be things like getting out of the garbage business. It's a losing proposition. People in Volney don't have the town picking up their garbage, and their town is not garbage-ridden. Sell water and sewer. This is the only commodity that Fulton has that makes money. Save money by reducing the number of street lights. Look at downtown. Who needs enough light to perform a medical operation in the parking lot at 3 in the morning? What? We need lights in order to deter crime? I had some relatives in Ohio, in the Dayton area. The power lines were in their backyards, so there were no street lights in their neighborhood. And I don't recollect crime there being any more of a problem than it is anywhere else. It is also my understanding that there are a lot of people with tax exemptions in the city of Fulton. Maybe it's time to help with their fair share. After all, they are entitled to get the services you provide. Another thought, how do I feel as a resident of Volney? I equate it in this way, and I hope everyone will think hard about this. If I have a neighbor who, because of their own good judgment of affairs, has prospered more than I have, what right should I have to make them give me some of what they have accumulated because I didn't manage my affairs as well as them? If government steps in and makes him give me part of the wealth, I would think this would come under the heading of socialism. Think about it.
Time.
Thank you, Lauren. Do you need to speak further after, or are you concluding?
Yes, I would like to.
Our next speaker is Thelma Tormino, a Volney resident.
Thelma Tormina, T-T-A-O-R-M-I-N-A.
I didn't come like everybody else with something prepared. I have to agree with what the gentleman just said. I know quite a few of you that are up here from Fulton. I sell real estate in Fulton, so my livelihood is there. I also live in Volney, so I can understand what the residents' problems are with the annexation. I just think that to annex it would create more problems than it's worth in the long run, and we really all need to work together, especially through all this time, and I just don't think it's right to take our land away so that you can make your 3% sales tax when we need that land and that money just as bad as you do. And we've all lived together, we've all shared together for so long. Why should we divorce the family now? That's all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dan Rusaw, a Volney resident.
My name's Dan Rusaw, R-U-S-A-W.
I'm sorry. What's the spelling again?
R-U-S-A-W. I want to speak just briefly one topic that was brought up earlier, and that was that the city could provide improved EMS and fire services. I think if any of you have read the paper in the last day or so, you've noticed that the Fulton Fire Department under Chief Jensen is in the process of changing their fire phones over to be answered at county fire control. His object behind doing this is to get one more man on the trucks to help fight the fires. And it's already been brought up, instead of putting this man on the truck, let's get rid of him. And let's say the city does this. Now you're talking about a fire department response with 7 people. You've got 3 truck operators that have to operate the trucks, then you've got 2 hydrant men if they have to hook the hydrants to the trucks. That leaves 2 men to fight the fire. It's not very much to fight a fire with, not 2 men. And I'm not criticizing the Fulton Fire Department. I mean, they're operating the best they can with what they have. Another thing is, we've all seen what's happened out in California. I've seen after the earthquake, we've seen apartment house fires being fought like brush fires with helicopter water drops because the water mains are all broke. The trucks don't have any water to use, so they're at a loss. And I think that's one advantage where our fire department does have. Using a hydrant system for us is a luxury. And if something were to happen to the shopping center, or if it were to happen to the city's water supply, not necessarily an earthquake, but if it went down or whatever, the city's trucks carry basically about 300 gallons of water. Our trucks carry either 1,500 or 2,000 gallons of water. It buys us additional water, which gives us additional firefighting time. We're also set up with portable tanks that water can be stored in at the fire scene to fight the fires with. We're geared toward fighting a fire if a water system is not there. And our truck capacities as far as pumps are all 1,500 gallons per minute pumpers. The newest one that we've got on order that's coming the end of this month is a 2,000 gallon per minute pump. So we have an excellent pumping capacity as far as being able to meet any needs that may occur at the shopping center. So I think one kind of washes the other here. As far as EMS, Mentor Ambulance Service located on Nestle Drive, quarter of a mile away. That's a given, whether they're in the town of Volney or the city of Fulton, they're still only a quarter of a mile away. So there's really not going to be any improvement one way or the other there, because the distance isn't going to change. So that's, as far as past that, the only other thing I'd like to just touch on is the contract. 2 years from now, if the county puts a sales tax through, and they've already proven with the IDA, we have no idea what they're going to do to us next. But 2 years from now, if they put the sales tax through, then we've got nothing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Greco, a Volney resident. Okay, Tom has no comments. Our next speaker is Ann Marbito Snyder from the Greater Fulton Chamber of Commerce.
To distribute, may I do so?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And would you have time for
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ann Murabito Snyder. I'm president of the Greater Fulton Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here tonight representing that organization. The Greater Fulton Chamber of Commerce has consistently endorsed a solution to the River Glen Shopping Center issue that will benefit both Fulton and Volney. We believe that it is in the best interest of all area residents for the city and the town to work cooperatively so that this important project can go forward. We believe that the best interests of the city and the taxpayers of Volney are not incompatible, that protecting the city and benefiting the town's taxpayers can both be accomplished by annexation. Accordingly, the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, by resolution, supports physical annexation into the city of Fulton of River Glen Square property. This was not an easy decision. I want to emphasize that support for annexation is strictly in response to the staggering sales tax losses that Fulton will suffer from the center's location in Volney. The Greater Fulton Chamber of Commerce Incorporated is a membership organization representing over 350 businesses, industries, and individuals in Fulton, Volney, Granby, and elsewhere in Oswego County and Onondaga County. The Chamber of Commerce is pro-growth. We work to attract industries, retail businesses, and residential developments to our area in an effort to help make this area a better place to live, to work, and to do business. The proposed shopping center is an important new development in the region. It represents a major $10 million investment in the local economy, and it will provide new shopping opportunities for area residents. In addition, this project will bring in 300 to 400 builder trade jobs along with a projected 400 retail positions upon completion. And while we acknowledge that some of these jobs will be part-time, it still makes a significant positive impact for this area. But we're deeply concerned that if the project stays in Volney, the city of Fulton will lose $500,000 in sales tax revenues as people switch some of their shopping from City of Fulton stores to the new shopping center. That figure is supported by research findings from the shopping center's prospective tenants and from Dr. Kenneth Stone, professor of economics at Iowa State University, an expert on the impact of mass merchandisers on small communities. Dr. Stone spoke to local business and government leaders in November 1992. If the question were whether Fulton or Volney ought to get $500,000 in sales tax revenues, the Chamber would not be supporting annexation. Under no circumstances would we knowingly favor the interest of the city over the town, if those interests were reasonably equal. Similarly, if there were a countywide sales tax, the Chamber would not favor annexation. but the location of the center in Volney means that Fulton will suffer a $500,000 loss without any corresponding gain to Volney, which has no ability to impose a sales tax. The sales tax loss will have a devastating impact on the Fulton city budget. Fulton, like most other small cities, simply doesn't have the resources to absorb a hit of this magnitude. Therefore, either city services will be cut from what is already an austere city budget, or property taxes will rise. Property owners, particularly business and industry property owners, are not in a position to make up the shortfall. Higher property taxes translates into higher business costs, making Fulton plants and businesses, where many of Volney residents work, less competitive than their counterparts around the country. We've just seen a major local employer announce that it is leaving Volney for lower cost areas. The further loss of any major Fulton employers would hurt Volney nearly as much as it would hurt Fulton. It is in all of our interests not to wantonly sacrifice $500,000 in tax revenue and not to increase the burdens on our businesses. In closing, I want to emphasize that the Chamber still supports a negotiated resolution if it is possible, and we would encourage a solution that protects Volney from any loss. We understand that the City of Fulton has already offered to pay the town an amount which would far exceed property tax revenues it would otherwise be able to get from the property. We believe the Volney taxpayers should welcome that offer and realize that the town can gain more revenue from annexation than it can from simple property taxes, thus giving Volney taxpayers lower property taxes. In the absence of any reasonable negotiated solution, we urge annexation of the River Glen Shopping Center into the City of Fulton as the best solution for the taxpayers of Fulton, Volney, and the entire area. We thank you for the opportunity to comment, and that concludes my comments on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. I have one additional comment, though, that I would like to make. I am also chairman of the Neighborhood-Based Initiatives Neighborhood Advisory Council, and as a point of clarification, to the best of my knowledge, the Neighborhood-Based Initiatives, NAC, has never taken a position on annexation, has never had a discussion about annexation, and it's not on the agenda for discussion. And I just add that comment. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Fern Parsons, a Volney resident.
My name is Colleen Scott, and I'm reading this for my mother, Fern Parsons, who's in Florida. She backs this up from Florida. To the residents of the town of Volney and the city of Fulton, I have been a resident of the town of Volney for most of my life. My parents taught me to be proud of that fact, that God blessed us by allowing us to be born Americans. Most of the time, I am proud to be a citizen of the United States of America. The times that I hang my head in shame are when I see the way the American Indians were treated and deprived of their dignity and land. Volney's land should always be Volney's. No one can give me a reason good enough to justify taking by force something that belongs to others. The legal manipulations are like fish kept too long. They have a very offensive odor. Fulton is like a greedy, spoiled child, wanting what others have and not making good use of what they already have. Their words are, "I want it, so give it to me." Then if that works, are they satisfied? No. There will then be another area, like the Crosby Hill Volney School area. I have heard for a long time that this area has been coveted by Fulton. That would not be the end of it either. A greedy child is never satisfied. Fulton and Oswego County have told Volney a lot of fairy tales. It doesn't take a lot of digging to uncover information that gives off bad odors. If that doesn't bother you, drive by our Silk Road landfill. There ought to be enough bad odor there for you. I have some questions. Ask the residents and town boards of Granby if Fulton has lived up to the agreements made with them. Ask Fulton and Oswego County how they came up with the erroneous tax figures pertaining to the mall that they gave Volney officials. Ask yourself, would you like your neighbor to be allowed to take any portion of your land that appealed to them? I would like to remind anyone involved in this land-grabbing maneuver, no one lives forever, and there are no pockets in a shroud. So I ask you, How are you going to bribe God when you stand before him on Judgment Day? A concerned Volney resident, Fern E. Parsons. Thank you.
I'm going to call a 5-minute recess before we continue. Let the record show it's 8:40. Is 5 minutes long enough for you? Okay, let's make it 10 minutes.
Think about Howard. I'm going to ask you if you think the Fulton Fire Department better than the Volney Fire Department.
Oh, come on, that's not fair.
Uh-oh.
What's happened? What's happened?
We're starting round
Well,
two.
There might be some more over there, I'm not sure.
Oh, wait a minute, we got more over there.
Tap it, Chris. You're not going to give us an eloquent speech?
Chris, tap it.
Oh, that was good.
Okay, I cleaned it up for her.
No, that was good.
You did a good job.
That was good.
Well, put it together yesterday, and she was out of town today, so I hope you'll like it.
We're all knowing.
Well, then something's wrong with it. Yeah, but it's us. It doesn't matter.
Legally, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, okay.
Legally, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Left open for further written comments and things. Is that what you want to do?
I don't know.
Yeah, do you want to just close the hearing when everyone's done speaking?
Whenever you, I think so. There's no need to go back and forth. On that, so I don't think, I think we ought to just close the hearing, close the hearing. I didn't open I'm not going to hearing stuff or anything like
You know, each board can make what they got. That's okay. We got 90 days.
Yeah.
Where's our mayor?
Oh, here he comes. Yeah, we've got 3 more speakers. Now, this one, I don't know if he's a volunteer.
What's that? Yeah. What I do want to make sure is we have a pile of all the things that are submitted, all the things that are submitted for the record.
Okay, now, you get all that? Who gets all that?
Well, you say me, we're gonna keep them. I mean, I may very well the town.
So do you have everything that Jim has submitted?
Well, I've got notes on it. I don't know that
I'll get the rest of Jim.
frankly, adjourn before we just recess everybody. Maybe we just make sure that we got everything.
Okay. What is it, 8:57? I'm going to call the hearing back to order at 8:57. Okay, our next speaker is Jim Hinman, a Volney resident.
Pastor Jim Hinman, H-I-N-M-A-N.
I'm sorry, H-I...
N. Hinman, I am a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Volney, and I would like to read from the minutes of June 9th, 1993, when Widewaters came before the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would like to read 2 paragraphs. The next matter before the board was the appeals by Widewaters Pierce Drive Association for a variance from certain provisions of the zoning ordinance of the town of Volney. The public notice that had been placed in the paper was read by Chairman Foster, Exhibit A. Mr. Joseph B. Girardi appeared before the board representing Widewaters. He was asked to approach the board with a statement regarding their application. On the same page, the last paragraph, the first thing I asked Mr. Girardi, and I quote, Jim Hinman noted that the design drawing showed a layout for an entire plaza, but the understanding from the newspaper reports was that because of the water situation, they would not be able to build, and asked if that was the case. Mr. Girardi replied that they were still going to try to fill the entire center and work the problem regarding the restaurant thing later on. It is the inclusion of a restaurant that creates a problem due to the volume of water required for the operation of the same. If the problem cannot be worked out, it is always possible to build a small septic system and drill a well, and they would have to return to the board for approval if this condition arose. Mr. Girardi, where are you? I never saw him come before us again. As a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I feel that we were duped. Where is the integrity of people nowadays? Volney is losing taxes with the loss of millers. In my opinion, I think that Fulton and Volney needs to work this out without annexation. First, Oswego County puts a dump behind my church, and now my small farm is adjacent to the mall. What will be next? I don't think we need to be annexed by Fulton. I think that a better solution can be worked out and should be worked out. I operate a small farm with my wife. I guess my cows sent me here tonight. They said they don't want to be a part of Fulton. Leave us in Volney, please. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Kimball, a Volney resident.
I'm Charles Smart. I'm reading this on Paul Kimball's behalf. He is in Florida. He had written this letter to the various papers. It was published in the Valley News, and it was published in the Palladium Times. He asked me to read a copy of the letter for this hearing. I will not give any more of my own personal feelings. This is Paul's time. The following are some thoughts about the good neighbor policy of Volney and Fulton over the last 60 years or so. At one time, Fulton was the hub of our lives, furnishing us with a place to work, attend schools, and do our shopping. Today, Volney pays nearly half of all the school tax in the Fulton School District. 55 years or so ago, the rumbling, smoking locomotive train traveled up and down East 2nd Street. The Fulton residents revolted and the tracks were moved to Volney. Nothing was asked in return. In the late 40s, Volney residents formed a volunteer fire corporation. They've spent many hours and days helping combat city fires. This was especially true during the 60s and 70s when Fulton had many downtown fires. Many of the volunteers gave up wages from work time missed, and yet some paid Fulton firemen bragged of being paid overtime pay for sleeping while fighting these same fires. Volney furnished nearly a square mile of land for an airport, which helps Fulton. Does the town receive any revenue from this land? We do not. When Fulton owned this airport, they burned their garbage there, smoking out a large section of the town. This went on for several years, soiling washing on the lines and making it difficult to sleep. Later, the town took the garbage at the Silk Road landfill site and now Bristol Hill, many more acres with no compensation to the town. In the late 70s, Fulton wanted federal money to help with their water and sewer system. Because it was federal money, studies were required in the adjoining towns to find the need for services there. Volney paid for these studies, later partially reimbursed. and proposed 4 or 5 districts which were turned down because they were not needed at that time. Volney then signed a letter of agreement that water and sewer services were not needed at that time, but that future capacity was wanted, so Fulton could get approval. In the late 80s, Fulton needed additional water and asked the town about running a line south along Route 57 and then east along Owens Road under Route 41 to the Metropolitan Water Board line in Volney. I coached them on obtaining permission to tap the existing line for Miller Brewing Company. This saved the city close to $1 million. Also in the late 80s, the rail yards behind Lee Memorial Hospital in the city of Fulton. This caused a great deal of noise and traffic congestion in the city. Volney supplied the solution when the new rail yard was built between 481 and Maple Ave in our town. Regarding the River Glen Square Mall that some Fulton government officials are looking to annex, primarily for the 3% sales tax, I believe that the residents of Fulton would actually be better off if this property remains in Volney. The increased number of customers these stores will attract from the north and the south because of the 4% tax will enhance the opportunities for all business in the area. People will not just buy in Volney. They will come into the city to shop the unique stores and services provided there. In the past year, a $366,000 grant was given by the state government to benefit the entire Fulton, Granby, Volney area. This was based on need in the school district. The committee established under the Neighborhood-Based Initiative, later called the Neighborhood-Based Alliance, did not seek broad input from the towns, although 1/2 the students and more than half the school taxes come from the towns. Instead, they were made up of city Fulton-based industries and city and county agencies. A not-so-startling conclusion of this group is that Fulton needs more land to develop. Where is this land coming from? Is this being a good neighbor? For the record, I spent 35 years with the Sealright Company as a process engineer. During this time, I had a number of better job offers in other states, but I felt that I should try to improve our equipment and keep Fulton residents working. I will never know which was the right thing to do for my family, but I am happy with the way the Sealright plant has turned out. Former Volney Supervisor, Paul A. Kimball.
Our next speaker is Morris McCann, a Fulton resident.
Yeah, I'd just like to say here tonight that in your own backyard you have the Onondaga water line, and I don't see why the town of Volney doesn't go to the state or the federal to help them build their own treatment plant, and look what all you could have. I don't think the mayor of Fulton is aware that he will be seeking state and federal aid if you do tie into the Fulton sewer system, because there are 3 stations alone that are going to have to be upgraded that ever since I've been there in '79, that it doesn't handle the flow during the rainstorm or anything else. And our overflows are working 24 hours a day. Now, if they don't get state and federal aid to upgrade it, then our sewer tax will go up again. But if you let them get away with this, they supply water and sewer to your Volney school. Is that the next thing that they'll take? Thank you.
Are there any new cards, Barb? Okay, our next speaker is Brenda Ratliff, a Volney resident.
Well, first of all, I wasn't really planning on speaking, but I just wanted to say something. I own a small little business here in Volney, and I'd like to see Fulton and Volney work together. It looks like you've cleaned up your city as far as your mayors and your board. They look nice. I'm sorry that was, but it's a shame that you can't work together. As many great minds as you've got up there, you can't come up with one solution that's going to satisfy everybody without taking something that it's going to cause so many hard feelings that nobody's going to shop there. Personally, I won't. And I really don't feel like it's the people of Volney going against the people of Fulton. It's the people, it's your big business and your big money that are the root of all the evil that's going on right now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call on the people that wanted to speak a second time, and you'll be allowed 5 more minutes. There are 4 people. Alan Kestner asked to speak again. He didn't realize he had to request that initially. So we'll start with Alan Kestner.
You're telling me K-E-S-T-N-E-R. Yes, I'm Alan Kestner. I'll start this off better. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're all aware, of course, at least I believe that Mayor Don Bullard is an honorable person. I think that we've been dealing with some people in this who are less than honorable. We have been lied to. We have been read in the paper about where some members of the city council, City of Fulton Council, have talked about smoke screens and, gee, you really thought we were doing this, but we were doing that. And it's a little disturbing to find out, at least to me, that the county, the IDA, is in on this. I understand that this transcript is going to be read by the adjudication official, and if that's true, I would like to point out for the record that I think somebody here tonight said that there was some legal advice on this, given on this IDA getting involved in this. I would like to point out that Bruce Clark, who is an attorney for the County of Oswego, is also a business partner with Larry Rowley and Pierce Development, and that it would seem to me that if he had anything at all, any advice at all, whether it was pro or con, in regard to IDA getting into this, that this would constitute conflict of interest. I don't know if, I think that the County of Oswego does not have a charter, and I don't know if conflict of interest is against the law in this county, but this whole thing with the IDA, to me, stinks. It stinks. It smells to high heaven. We are talking about cronyism. We are talking about a county legislature that has been known to protect persons who are indicted for crimes. They're rewarded with better jobs. The whole thing smells. It's incestuous. The whole relationship here between some of the people involved in this and their relationship at the legislative level is horrendous. The Reverend Hinman used the word duped. That doesn't even begin to describe what's happened to us. We have been trying to deal with it. We thought we were dealing with the city of Fulton, but I don't believe we are. I don't believe we are. When their lawyer probably found out about this many days before our lawyer found out that the IDA was involved in this. I don't understand how Larry Rowley could sell the land or lease the land or get the IDA involved in this, as powerful as they are, as much money as they have. I don't understand how this whole thing could be a done deal the 29th of December, and it becomes common knowledge here tonight from the lawyer from the city of Fulton. I don't understand this. I don't understand how we've been sitting around here all summer talking about this, and I won't say dirty dealings, but dealing has been going on. They didn't put this thing together in 2 weeks. They didn't put this thing together in 2 months. It took many, many months, maybe even a year or two, for this whole thing to come together, and we thought we were dealing with Larry Rowley, with Widewater, with Conjo, or whoever these other people are. We thought we were dealing with them straightforward and honestly, and it appears now that we were the only ones who were forthright and honest. This whole thing is very disturbing. One other incident is that a council member, a city of Fulton, who is no longer a council member, I was talking to him about this last summer, and he stated to me that that he felt that if the mall could not belong in the city of Fulton, then he didn't want the mall here at all. And I don't feel that way. If they, one of the gentlemen said, you can't let them do this. We're not letting them do anything. It'll probably be done, though. It'll probably be done. They're going to take the land. They're going to take the land. I feel that I don't think that if they take the land, the mall should not be built. If they take the land, the mall's built, fine. But we don't have to like it. And when Wendy's put the sign up, when Great Northern Mall was opening up, said, "Stop here for lunch on your way to the mall," they might better get that sign back out again, because we may stop at Wendy's on the way to Great Northern Mall, those of us who live in Volney. Thank you.
Okay, Charles Smart requested another 5 minutes.
I read the letter that I wrote to the Attorney General concerning the Strategic Neighborhood-Based Initiative. I have that report, the initial report that had been written here, with the sections that I took information from marked off, and I'm going to give that now to the stenographer. In addition to that, I received a response today from the State Department of Law, and I'll read that letter. It said, "Dear Mr. Smart, I'm responding to your letter of January 5, 1994, which this office received on January 18, 1994. Please be advised that I have forwarded your complaint to the Criminal Prosecutions Bureau in Albany for review and response. Very truly yours, John R. Vaninsky, Assistant Attorney General in charge." I have here also, for the benefit, the Neighborhood Advisory Council, November 17th, 1992 agenda, which has the committee plan presentations. Basically, it's because the NAC committees are on there, and it does show who was on those particular committees that I referenced. There's an article from the Valley News speaking about the NBI. State-funded program strives to make Fulton prosperous. There's a great deal of information about it. It does indicate the NBI first came to life through the Oswego County Administrator's Office when County Administrator Arthur Allspalt was looking for ways to improve human services within Oswego County. He assigned Carrie Dorsey as Executive Assistant to handle the administrative parts of the project. She's the liaison between the county officials and members of the Neighborhood Advisory Council, counterpart of the NBI. The Oswego County Social Services Department became the lead agency in the application for NBI funds. I'm also going to give this article to them. It's interesting to me to note that Ann Mirabeto Snyder spoke as president of the Chamber of Commerce, strongly and stridently speaking in favor of annexation of our mall area into the city of Fulton. She did mention that she was also chairman of the NBI. It depends on which hat she's wearing, apparently, what action is being taken. Many of the same people are on the NBI in the Chamber of Commerce, also in the IDA for that matter. The same people circulating on various committees and various programs around the city and the county. Depends on which hat they're wearing, supposedly what their organization is doing. I want to speak also to the fact they're talking about will you get more money if the land is annexed into Fulton. That was the allegation, that we would get more money if the land was annexed into the city of Fulton. Gone is gone. When the land is out of the town and the 3% sales tax becomes a reality, it ends. While it's in the town, the land is ours forever. The payment never ends. We're talking about, they keep talking about 500,000 sales tax that would be lost. They say it's because of lost revenues as well as the revenues that they won't gain from there. I would indicate that that's $17 million of retail sales to obtain $500,000, $510,000 actually, in sales tax at 3%. I spoke about the fact that they took advantage of our relatively easy zoning and working zoning laws and working with our planning board. I have here an article from the Wednesday, October 27, 1993, Oswego Valley News. Speaking of the mall issue heads into court and negotiations have been ongoing by Doreen Hannavy. In that article, John Lincoln, a member of the board, said, I'll read it. City negotiation with developers for annexation of a Volney Mall have been ongoing since last March, said First Ward Alderman John Lincoln today. The Widewaters Group, DeWitt, announced its intention to petition the annexation of the River Glen Square Mall, Volney, into Fulton on Thursday. Joseph Girardi, Widewaters Vice President and Legal Counsel, is not working in his office today and cannot be reached for comment. Lincoln said he began meeting with Widewaters and providing them with information about city laws when he realized that Fulton, do I have 30 seconds? That Fulton, when he realized that Fulton and Volney were not going to agree on annexation. Other council members knew about those meetings. I didn't want to see 10 million project go down the tubes. I did this because it's in the city's best interest. Fulton wanted the proposed mall, 3%. Private meetings were held between Lincoln and Widewaters because they didn't think Volney would grant Widewaters necessary building permits and variances if it knew annexation was being considered, Lincoln said. They were concerned that Volney might prevent construction of the mall by rezoning the area. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Kevin Conley. Kevin is left. Okay. Our last speaker, Lauren Knapp.
Thanks again. Going back, my speech had to do more with sales tax and the people. I reflect back on that. Land tax is deductible and your personal income tax. Sales tax is not. So eventually the taxpayer ends up having even less in his pocket when his money is gone to paying taxes and sales taxes. And last, in a conversation with the associate, it was brought to my attention that a new sweeter deal was being offered by the politicians or the city of Fulton. And I was asked what I would do if I had a case pending for $1 million in a lawsuit and had a good chance of losing. And then I was offered $500,000 to settle out of court. What would I take? Well, I told him I didn't really feel that this was should be put in perspective and change it to use a $1,000 lawsuit and $500 settlement. With numbers like that, I would take my chances and fight it because I could withstand the losses if I didn't win. And so I asked the Volney Town Board, if we have to take this annexation to the courts, I'm sure we can afford what it takes to keep someone from what I feel will be stealing our land, even if they think that they're doing it fair and square. That was the end of my prepared statement that I brought out here this evening, but I put down some thoughts during tonight's session that I would like to share. One is, why would not the stores that are coming to this mall want a benefit of having a 3% less sales tax for a calling card? And I believe it was Mr. Fisher's report said that Fulton would lose the benefit of the 3% tax, and I wonder, how can you lose something if you didn't have to begin with? And the benefits, pro and con, that he argued appeared to me to be tilted more into the favor of annexation to the city. And the choice of his words in just little things like were in favor of annexation were words like, unfortunately for the town of Volney, things. And then at last, Mrs. Snyder from the, I believe she's from the Chamber of Commerce, she had arguments about the price of doing business if the city did not get this extra 3% sales tax. And I she didn't take into effect what might be the advantages to the city of Fulton and to the businesses if you could rescind the sales tax. I also found it interesting that I believe there's one regular Fulton resident came out here this evening and elected to speak. I don't know if it was because we're going over to somebody's territory or somebody else's territory or not, but I would really like to hear what they have to say. I hope that maybe another public hearing can be brought up in the city of Fulton where maybe more Fulton residents would care to come and share their thoughts. And last but not least, when it comes to 3% sales tax, I was fortunate enough here recently to purchase an aircraft. And since I lived in the town of Volney and the transaction took place in the town of Volney, this aircraft cost approximately as much as 2 new automobiles would. I saved over $900 just in sales tax alone on the purchase of this aircraft. You could almost equate that to purchasing 2 automobiles, which in a span of probably 8 to 10 years, many people would do. And that savings is there, just in sales tax. The people that live in the city of Fulton now have to pay that extra 3%, whether they buy that car in Fulton or if they buy it someplace else. So those are my comments, and I'd like to thank you all for listening. And I hope that these hard feelings that was going to start between Fulton and Volney can be avoided. Thank you.
Guess we have one more card from someone else that wants to speak that hasn't spoken yet. Okay, you just want to submit something to the record, Colleen?
Yeah.
Okay. So noted, and you can just bring it up afterwards. Okay.
You said you could speak twice.
Oh, well, then you're speaking again from your first card then. Okay, you submitted a new card. That's what's confusing me here.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Colleen Scott, and I'm here speaking now about the organization that we started. It's called SAVE. It stopped annexation of Volney by extortion. I truly believe that we're being extorted. I feel no one's dealt honestly with us. We've tried to be open and honest. We tried to deal with wide waters. The first night that Mr. Aiello came to our town board meeting to try and tell us about annexation, I talked with him. I told him it was never going to work. He couldn't understand why. Well, people in the town of Volney don't want to give their land away. And I feel the rest of this article is very important. All along, we've been the trusting little children. But now, you know what? We're grown up, and we know what big business can do to a town and to a city. I graduated from G. Ray Bodley High School in 1970. I always felt like I was part of Fulton. I don't feel that way anymore. My 25th high school reunion will be in 1995. Right now, I don't have the heart to think about going. That's how bad Fulton has made me feel. I don't feel like I'm part of anything anymore. I'm just one of those country bumpkins that the city wants to take land away from. So I'm just going to finish with the last part of this article that's taught me not to trust people. It's from the Wednesday, October 27th, Valley News by Doreen Hannavy. Attorney Nancy Friel Hornick, who specializes in real estate and annexation, was hired by Widewaters to pursue annexation, Lincoln said. Hornick could not be reached before press time today to comment. She was sent to a September Common Council meeting as a smoke screen, saying that they had come back for more water and sewer at a later time, he said. But if you read between the lines, she also said Widewaters would then petition for annexation. I think that's a pretty bad, sad thing to quote in the newspaper. It's almost like there was a little bit of gleeful attitude to it. I don't think there's anything gleeful about this situation. I think it's pretty sad. Thank you for listening to me. And I'd like to put these saved brochures in the record. Thank you.
Are there any more cards, Barb? Okay. I'd like to mention anyone that has copies of their statements that they'd like to submit for the record, just bring them up here to me, and I will do so. I'm also going to submit all the 3x5 cards that have the addresses on for the record, because some people didn't give their address, so I'll do that as well. And with no more comments, I'd like to close this public hearing at 9:30. I thank everybody for coming and commenting. Good job. You really did a great job. There's no reason. No one requested it. Tomorrow, a year is going. Tomorrow, I got the letter. My other two guys, you saw good. You're the four down. Yeah, I want to make sure we get. I thought it was moving a lot. I don't know if it make any difference. What's that?
Everybody had the chance.
Yeah.
Trout. They've had plenty of swing.
Just as long as we got a big enough pile.
Trout.
You? Yeah, we got to make sure that.
Too cold for them, I guess. You see how orderly they could be out here?
Well, we were the ones that were orderly. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, all right. Thanks.